What feels like a cult, and is in fact a cult? Multi-level marketing, MLM sell to your friends. They don't want to buy in? Remove them from your life. Scientology, look up, Xenu. Hawaii did not even exist 75 years ago. L. Ron Hubbard was nuts. Yet Scientologists believe this shit. I can't believe Tom fucking Cruise believes this shit. Anyone says they are a Scientologist, avoid them like the plague. Batshit crazy. I wondered if they've just got some shit on Tom Cruise and he can't leave. All of these nutrition places with their loaded teas are just a front for Herbalife. Most MLMs have the cult vibe. The Lou La Rich documentary talks about the major cult vibes they were using to work their retailers into a frenzy and not realize they were being conned. Boarding schools for troubled teens. Yep. Had a horrible time at one of these. Got gooned at 3 a.m. and sent to southern Utah and basically had to work on a ranch under the guise of equine therapy. Utah has some messed up laws that allow this to happen. Luckily I met one of my good friends there and we helped each other work through it. Still have some lingering trauma and I always feel awful hearing similar stories. It's crazy how more people aren't aware of the industry. Heard about the Utah place while I was in Maine. I got gooned to at 3 a.m. A bag packed with stuff I've never seen and my parents out of the house. Met a friend there that told me the only way to make it is to fake it. Did just that and got out. One of the kids went from place to place and said Utah was miserable. Maine wasn't a bowl of cherries. Nexium. All hail Vanguard. And past the branding iron. Scrolled through and didn't see it. The prosperity gospel. I don't quite know how to explain in, but once a fandom reaches a certain point, it's almost embarrassing to admit that you like the show / movie / book / etc. because you automatically get lumped in with the super cringe and toxic portion. Yeah, not to mention those people who are weirdly obsessed with certain YouTubers, sometimes even after they have been off the internet for a long while. NutriBoom. Chief's mess in the US Navy, which comes complete with initiation. Something no other branch, enlisted or officer, has, and that this somehow forms an eternal bond of blood by family. That includes eating food out of trash cans and sabotaging uniforms for the greater lesson. Then private meetings that have gray areas / secrets of what happens in those meetings. Specifically anything related to punishments or review boards. The fact that it takes two chiefs talking behind closed doors to get anything accomplished is also proof. People notice, though it's implied that it's not noticed. No other branch treats E7 the way the Navy does. All those fucking goat locker shirts at the necks, and stickers on every single chief's truck. Miss me with that bullshit. I got out. Second class for life. The troubled teen industry. What is that? Like those scared straight programs? Worse. A lot will pretend to abduct you and yell at you for hours. Keep you awake for days. Not really feed you. Even physically hurt you on purpose because many kids who go through this don't get arrested as adults. Let's ignore the ones that do or the mental health effects. So it has to work. Westboro Baptist Church. Yeah, they protested outside of a fallen soldier's funeral with signs that said absolutely horrendous things. The father of the fallen soldier sued for defamation and emotional distress and got $5 million from the church. Crazy stuff. Can confirm. Lost 3 of my soldiers during my time in the army, 2 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. And had a commander murdered stateside. Most heartbreaking and gut-wrenching thing to experience is trying to pay your respects to a family that has had their loved one taken and see WBC in their protests in the background. One funeral in NC they protested dissipated quickly when the Patriot Guard literally formed a wall to block WBC from seeing any of the procession nor the gravesite. I support people in their right to protest. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't. But there has to be a clear line between exercising one's right and infringing upon another. Just my opinion. But WBC strikes a deep chord with me. Primerica. Worst cult vibes ever. I almost got suckered into that. After going to an interview, I realized what it was, and decided to back out. A year later, I saw they had charged my card $30. It took me way too long and more arguing than should have been necessary to get a refund. Greater than almost got suckered into that. After going to an interview, I realized what it was, and decided to back out. My exact experience. I had worked for Kirby 2 to 3 years before this. A friend invited me to a meeting and it was Kirby all over again. The overexcited enthusiasm and friendliness that is horror movie vibes. Which is accurate because the real horror is you getting drained financially while they string along promising riches. Man, when I was about 18 I got sucked into both Primerica and Kirby. I was young and dumb and wasn't aware of MLM and pyramid schemes and shit. What can I say? I was a sucker. Now that I'm older and wiser, now have a solid career as an entrepreneur getting my Herbalife business going. MLMs, but especially Mary Kay. I went to a convention once as the guest of a consultant because she was trying to get me to join. It was very Stepford. Also, she didn't tell me you were expected to dress up, so I showed up in jeans and a hoodie. I watched some documentary or something about this or a similar MLM, and you're not supposed to know you're supposed to dress up because the point is to make you feel crappy and like everyone else is successful. Herbalife. Mom-run community Facebook pages. Fucking preach. They are delusional. Whatever the Duggars are. Creepiest bunch I've ever seen. World Mission Society Church of God. It originated in South Korea and they believe the founder is God the Mother even though he was a man and he has since died. The university I went to has a real problem with these people. They preyed on foreign exchange students a lot. I lived in an apartment complex that had a high population of foreign exchange students. I'd warn as many as I could to not let these people in your apartment. It's not a custom in the US. Things like that. Those Shen Yun performances that are overly advertised every year. Turns out they're directly tied to Falun Gong. Sorts by controversial. Workplaces that tout we are a family. I've seen too many people fall into that and get ostracized by the family. I worked at a place like this. It was the worst experience. They paraded themselves around as a big Christian company but they were the worst human beings I've ever met. Racism was rampant. Cruel treatment. If they didn't like you they'd fire you but they tried to publicly humiliate the people they fired. They would brag and joke about it afterwards. The only job I ever quit without having something lined up. The final straw was when a guy called in to take care of his sick daughter. They told him he had to come in or be fired so he came in to work with his sick kid. Then they made him work Saturday and Sunday and then fired him Monday for bringing his kid to work. I packed my shit and walked out right after that. Edit, some typos and grammar and stuff. Scientology. Throwaway account, my child's mother is a Scientologist. In deep. Posters, books, pamphlets, etc. Frequents church quite a lot. Believes LRH is a great man. I've tried to have convos with her, and her husband, about it but they are excruciating. It always leads to having to watch a video about it. I've been to one of the churches. It's literally an infomercial inside a building. Books for sale all over, shocking, and all written by L. Ron even though he's been dead for decades. They'll spend hours in an auditing session while my child sits in the lobby watching YouTube, which they don't monitor. I know way more about Scientology than I ever wanted to know and I still don't know enough. And I'm very wary about my child growing up with it as an influence. Edited to correct weary to wary. Obviously I don't know your situation or country, but I dealt with my child's father being heavy-handed with religion. To the point I had to have a family court mediator order him to limit her time in prayer. He was having her pray for 2 hours a night. They told him 1 minute for every year of age so at 6 minutes was appropriate. Anyway my long point is if you have hesitations about your child's religion, and I think you should be hesitant because Scientology is so divisive. They could actually alienate your child from you if you're considered suppressive or some bullshit. I just want you to know you have options and rights, essential oils, or as my mom calls it, multi-level marketing. Amway, every iteration of the self-improvement, self-actualization, get rich, get happy seminar scam, Landmark Forum, EST, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, MLMs, etc. They all make liberal use of brainwashing and manipulation techniques you also routinely see used by cultists. And their goal is the same, to exploit desperate people for financial gain. Working at In-N-Out was a bizarre experience I would liken unto a cult. They damn near worship the owner Lindsay too. When I went to the company picnic she would perform on stage dancing. Once she did this weird sexy aerial dance in a floating cube. And the associates go crazy for her. Like, nuts. One of my coworkers and I were sitting there so uncomfortable while everyone screamed and grabbed at her like she was the damn messiah. Literally snot crying over not getting a t-shirt signed by her. Like, that is the billionaire heiress who employs you. Not fucking Beyonce. Then of course all the In-N-Out culture. Like the specific language you have to use, not just with customers. With each other too. The extreme Christian standards. It was nuts and after working elsewhere, it was my first restaurant job when I was in HS until last year. I realized exactly how culty the whole company is. Silicon Valley tech companies are not a cult. However, there is a subculture within Silicon Valley tech companies that is a cult. Here are some things to watch out for. Sleep deprivation. If your team wants you to do overnight on-call, and overnight pages happen more often than once every 7 on-call shifts, your team is a cult. Training versus guilt. If your team assumes that you already know all the details of the tech you work with, and dumps weird guilt on you when you don't know an obscure fact, your team is a cult. Rich lifestyle versus actual returns. If your team encourage you to pick up expensive hobbies, sports cars, piloting, ski trips, but the company doesn't actually pay enough to afford them without skimping on your regular expenses, your team is a cult. Also if you've planned a vacation in advance, and it's known, don't let people drag you back to work. You are more important than anything else. Fuck work. If you told them well in advance and had it planned out, don't let anyone stop you from taking it. The entrepreneur lifestyle. Many people are encouraged to put aside pleasures of life in the tiniest hope that if they just grind hard enough they'll be billionaires. Oh also, while caring a lot about your money and how you spend it, buy my $500 plan to help you make money faster. I've found out that if anyone advertises they are an entrepreneur they are more likely to be a scammer/faker than an actual business owner. Like I know a guy that owns an excavating company. When he meets people and they ask what he does, he doesn't say I'm an entrepreneur, he says I work in excavation or says he owns an excavation company. Only people saying they are entrepreneurs are wannabes in my experience. Genuine love of a single politician. Yes, maybe this person is legitimately good, or is doing positive things in certain areas and perhaps negative things in other areas. It's largely subjective. If it weren't, most countries' citizens would just be happy. But listen, if this person is the best and we're going to harp on about it forever, and in the reverse harping on hating said person forever, then you've got yourself a cult. If you love a politician, you're an embarrassment. They're certainly not as perfect as you think. We can acknowledge those imprecations and vote based on policy. But making a single one of them out to be perfect, or imperfect, means you've just chosen a side and you're likely not even going to try to open yourself up to altering opinions. Within the cancer community there's a political group who have all read, probably, Chris Beat Cancer, and it's a bullshit book telling you can cure cancer by changing your diet. Sugar is the main villain. You can fight me all you want, but sugar does not cause cancer. Listen to your oncology approved dietitian and get the fuck off Facebook. Just this past weekend I had lunch with my friend's dad who is also terminal and his wife has banned him from sugar because of this bullshit. The dude is dying and he's not even allowed to enjoy himself in moderation, because she heard about it on Facebook. Edit, chemo brain often forgets the huge difference between nutritionist and dietitian. Sorry, my bad. And finally, I'm done arguing. Thanks everybody. Please listen to the cancer patient in your life and what they want. Do they want to change their diet? Absolutely go for it, but make sure they're getting the right nutrition from a qualified professional. Do what they want. You actually have no idea. We really need to shift our current state of cancer care to a more palliative, not hospice, big distinction, model. A cancer patient that is as relatively happy as can be has the potential to increase their outcome. And finally, donate blood and sign up for Bethemach.org. We need you. When I had cancer, people gave me a lot of unsolicited advice. I was told to do a number of bullshit diets, and to not use Western medicine. I had no tact at that time. I was so exhausted and sick. I would just remind people that I was a single mother who did not have fuck around and find out money for alternative healthcare. And it would be cruel to deny my children their mother because some idiot told her to change her diet and she died. I asked a few people if they were volunteering to pay for my funeral. Edit, you guys gave me treasure. Thank you. As somebody who lives in Florida, people obsessed with Disney,